Hi guys, welcome to the Wrestling Retrospective. In this video, I'll be doing my review of AEW Wrestledream. So first up on the card, we had Jay White defeat Hangman and Page in what was a great match to start the show. I thought they had good chemistry, it was evenly contested, some of the more brutal parts of the match being when they were kind of targeting each other, with Jay White targeting Hangman's knee and Hangman targeting Jay White's back, I want to believe. I can't remember what it was, but I know there was, like, I've written on my notes that there was good limb targeting. I thought it was very interesting that Jay White got the win here. I thought it was honestly going to be Hangman Page. He said that he being Jay White said that he had one more debt to pay or something. He was essentially he was just looking out for getting 2 wins back. One of them was against Hangman, and there was another one which he didn't specify, and I can't for the life of me think of who else it is, though I'm probably missing something obvious. But I am interested to see who that is. As for Hangman, I don't think he's finished with that with Jay White. I feel like these two might have a trilogy that might span maybe a special Dynamite and Full Gear, maybe adding a stipulation to one of those matches as well. But yeah, I think like my only small gripe with this match is that they felt like they were possibly holding back a little bit. But then if they're going to make multiple matches out of this feud, then I understand why that is the case. It wasn't like the show stealing match I thought it was going to be, but it was still very good nonetheless. So yeah, I thought it was a decent match overall. Maybe we thought it could have been a bit better, but it was a great way to start the show, and yeah, I'm very surprised with the results. Following that, we had Mariah May successfully defend the AEW Women's Championship against Willow Nightingale in what was a decent match. I thought it was one of the better matches of the night overall. For the most part, Mariah May controlled the match, but whenever Willow was on top, she was like, I found that watching Willow Nightingale is becoming a lot more fluid in the ring. Her wrestling overall has become a lot better over the past year. And yeah, she's just becoming one of the better female wrestlers on the roster. I will say though, the match placement wise, putting the women on second again, I feel like is kind of a dying trope. You know, especially as there was only one women's match on the card, which I thought was very disappointing. I thought that Mercedes Moné definitely could have defended us on this show, maybe against Chris Statlander, or maybe even had Camille versus Chris Statlander. But yeah, I thought it was disappointing the fact there was only one women's match, especially as Mercedes Moné is on the poster for Wrestledream, and yet she only showed up during the pre-show, or the 0 hour. But yeah, I thought overall it was really good. I thought that Willow Nightingale biting Mariah May's ear, I thought was very heelish for a ultra baby face. But then, you know, Mariah May hit a lovely headbutt going into the finish, as well as Willow Nightingale's brutal Death Valley driver into the corner. I thought was awful. But overall, I feel like it was just a solid defense from Mariah May. It really feels like Mariah May's in a position where there isn't really much for her right now if Toni Storm isn't coming back anytime soon and Mina Shirakawa is over in Japan. So it's kind of like, it feels like they're just doing smaller feuds to keep her ticking along before one of those two come back again. I assume we won't see Toni Storm until probably nearer the end of the year to set up a rematch between May and Storm for Grand Slam in Australia. Whereas Mina Shirakawa, as soon as she's back in the States, I assume that they will start their feud off. But yeah, I'd say it's a decent defense. I like that Mariah May is defending constantly, unlike other kind of heels who are champions on the show. And I say Willow's improving more and more. She's actually one of the baby faces that do all the smiley, all that other stuff that I actually quite like and enjoy to watch every week. But as I said, it was a really good match, probably one of the better ones on the card. It's just a shame that the placement put it so early into the night, because I feel like it could have been a really good spot to have it almost dead in the middle. But that's my only gripe really, is its match placement, which is nothing to do with the ladies themselves. So yeah, very good match. And yeah, I hope that Mariah May continues this really good run as AEW Women's Champion. After that, Jack Perry successfully defended the TNT Championship against Shibata in what was a really good match. I thought this was a match to show kind of the toughness of Jack Perry and his wrestling style against a more traditional wrestling style of Shibata. I thought that Shibata, for the most part, was probably controlling the match even when on the defensive, just because of how much he was kind of no selling. I don't want to say no selling, but he was like kind of doing the tests of strength with Perry, where Perry would chop him and he wouldn't really do anything, and then they keep going and going and going like that. That happened quite a few times. It definitely felt like Shibata was the better wrestler overall, which I know is a factual thing, but it's also a case of like in the match itself, like Shibata was the better wrestler. But what made this really good was the fact that Perry kind of stole the victory. He was kind of really smart about how he went about it, which meant that Shibata was almost outsmarted into a loss instead of out wrestled, which fits Perry's character perfectly. Like I said, it was a match that like I wasn't particularly invested in going in. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of Shibata. Like, I respect him for what he's done in wrestling overall, but like his style of wrestling just isn't something I enjoy particularly. But I feel like they worked this match really well. And then after the match, we got the kind of tease between Daniel Garcia and Jack Perry kind of feuding over the championship, which I feel like is a sticky situation just because, it feels like they want Jack Perry to be TNT champion for a long time, but obviously Daniel Garcia is so over right now, they're probably going to want to put the title on him as well. So I'm interested to see kind of what comes out of that, because whoever loses essentially does get hurt quite a bit by that momentum loss. And then, yeah, we saw the return of MJF as well, which we'll get into in kind of the next part. But Shibata versus Perry overall was a good match. I have no real complaints about it, but what I enjoyed mostly about it was the Jack Perry outsmarting Shibata into a victory part. I thought that was really cleverly done. And yes, some of it fit Jack Perry's character down to a T. So after the initial face-off of Daniel Garcia and Jack Perry, we got the return of MJF. Perry then attacked, or not, I don't want to say attacked, he more like took out Daniel Garcia with the championship belt, which then led to MJF cutting a promo and attacking Daniel Garcia, which then led into the finally return of Adam Cole. It seems like he is also back full time. He said that, he's cleared, I'm pretty sure he said he was cleared to wrestle. So yeah, very interested to see where this goes. Personally, I probably wouldn't start MJF and Adam Cole quite yet. I feel like this is a good teaser, but let's fully go into the feud after Full Gear, so then we get the match between them both that we've all been clamoring for more or less a year now at World's End, where the initial turn of Adam Cole being revealed as the Devil is like a year ago exactly. Kind of like a full circle feud and moment where these two will come together once again a year after Adam Cole turned on MJF. Now obviously the only issue with that is the fact that all the dynamics have changed. MJF is now a heel again, Adam Cole is face because he's been gone for so long and everyone's missed him. He could be nothing but a face, which essentially means that Adam Cole has started a group in the Undisputed Kingdom, which he then won't join himself without them turning face, and I can't imagine the Kingdom and Roderick Strong ever turning face because they're so good as heels. So it's kind of like a situation where they've kind of put themselves into a corner with Adam Cole because they've built a whole group around him that are heels, but then he's been gone for so long that, he's like, there was no question that he was going to be a babyface when he came back. I popped massively when he came back. And yeah, I look forward to seeing him come back to the ring and everything because I'm such a big fan of Adam Cole. And yeah, I feel like all this leads to very big positives. It's just a case of, are they going to have it done at Full Gear or are they going to hold off and do it at World's End, which makes the most sense because of the full circle moment of when Adam Cole revealed himself as the Devil. Following that, we had Takeshita defeat Will Ospreay and Ricochet to become the new international champion in a match that was very good, and it was never not going to be very good, to be fair. I thought that Takeshita controlled the match for the most part and really showed why he is the future of AEW and how pretty much they're going to have to put the big belt on him at some point instead of just one of the mid-card belts. I thought the MVP of the match was Takeshita. I thought that he was involved in nearly everything that was put together, and even when he wasn't involved in stuff, one-on-one Ricochet and Ospreay were never not going to put on a good match on their own. I am getting pretty fed up with even though they've only had like the singles match and this one, why we have to do the transitional wrestling and the missing and the flips and the standoff every time they meet. I'm hoping that isn't going to be the case, but if they do, it's going to get incredibly cringe incredibly quickly, as even when they did it on the pay-per-view I was like, yeah, okay, like, they did it in the big, they did it in the match that everyone talks about. They did it in the one-on-one match. They don't need to do it again here. But it didn't really take away from the match for me. I thought that for the most part, everything really worked well with this match, even the table spots and the Don Callis interruptions. And we then got the heel turn of Kyle Fletcher, which again makes perfect sense. I was worried for a second on Dynamite that the trade that Don Callis had made for Lance Archer was going to be Kyle Fletcher in a kind of act of revenge because he was turning babyface. But instead we got the turn on Ospreay, which means that Ospreay and Fletcher will probably go into a feud with each other, which will be very good. We got a sense of how good that was going to be when Ospreay, I think it was the Dynamite after Revolution, where they had a really good match on Dynamite. So I feel like we're just going to get a upper leveled version of that, which I'm very much looking forward to. And yeah, just for the most part, I think my only gripe with this match and kind of Ricochet and Ospreay especially is the fact that Ospreay goes for the cutter way too much during matches, which I'm noticing more and more. And the no selling of the Poison Rana makes zero sense to me. In my opinion, the Poison Rana or the reverse Hurricane Rana, however you want to call it, is probably one of the more brutal moves in wrestling, or at least it looks that way. When you're being forced backwards and landing on your head, for them to no sell that really takes away from the match for me and really makes the move not look as brutal as it actually is. But apart from that, it was very, very good. I mean, Takeshita is more than deserving of the championship. I was more hoping he was going to go for the Continental Championship, so him and Okada could feud and have just banger matches, and I don't think there's any reason why they can't, even if he's international champion, but I can't see them putting 2 belts on Takeshita, which is disappointing. But yeah, for me, positives all around as far as the match goes, apart from the little gripes I had, but Takeshita, as I've said, fully deserving of being the new international champion. After that, we had the return of Swerve Strickland, and he announced himself medically clear and that he wasn't joining MVP, and that was about it. Like, I was expecting a lot more out of this, like some kind of other return or debut, or possibly a Bobby Lashley, or somebody else I probably wasn't even thinking of. But yeah, no, it was kind of just Swerve saying he was cleared. He's saying he wasn't going to turn on Prince Nana because he's family, and they kind of had a standoff between Shelton Benjamin and Swerve Strickland, which again will be very good whenever we get round to that match. I assumed it was going to be on Dynamite, but they've already kind of teased that it's going to be Shelton Benjamin versus Leo Rush on Dynamite, which I find very funny because it's kind of like a tell me Bobby Lashley isn't signed with the company without telling me Bobby Lashley isn't signed with the company, when it's Shelton Benjamin, someone who has been in a group within WWE, and Leo Rush, who was his hype man in WWE. So unless they've done that very coincidentally, I find that very funny that is going to be Shelton Benjamin in the first match in Dynamite, with both of them being associated with Bobby Lashley. But yeah, I feel like, I'm very happy that Swerve's back. I feel like this would have been a perfect time to debut Bobby Lashley, but if they're going to hold off for a bit, for a bigger moment, then fair play. I'll be happy to see him whenever they do get around to it. But yeah, it kind of felt like this could have been done on Dynamite instead of being done on a pay-per-view, but because Swerve is from Washington, that's why they pretty much did it. And yeah, it felt like more of a waste of time. Like, maybe some of the matches could have gained a bit of time over this, but it's fine for what it was. After that, we had Hologram versus Beast Mortos, which Hologram won 2-1 in a 2 out of 3 falls match, in what was a fantastic display of Lucha Libre wrestling, and probably one of the better matches, if not the second best match on the card. I thought this was absolutely fantastic. I thought more or less the entire match was a highlight. They paced it really well. They evenly contested it really well. It was just fantastic overall. It was a match that I was very much looking forward to going into the event, and it did not disappoint at all. I think that Hologram is someone that everyone is getting behind very, very, like, I don't say very, very a lot. That's not the same thing, but he's becoming incredibly over. I think he's now 14-0 in AEW, which I wonder kind of what they're going to do with the streak, whether it's going to end up being in a title shot at some point, whether he's going to find himself going further and further up the card. And it also means that whoever defeats him pretty much is going to get a pretty big rub as well. But yeah, I thought that, again, Beast Mortos was absolutely fantastic. He's the one I'm kind of more invested in. Well, that's because I'm a bit stubborn and kind of don't really go straight for the people that everyone likes. But Beast Mortos I actually know from originally being in, well, not originally, but I know him from being in TNA as Black Taurus and being part of Decay. I thought that they kind of underutilized him in a way in TNA, because like the way he's shown here is way better than how he was shown there. And yeah, again, he's someone I have a big investment in now, because I feel like he's absolutely fantastic for his size and the athleticism that he's doing. He kind of seems like more of a Keith Lee character, where he's a big guy doing not big guy things. But yeah, I thought this was absolutely fantastic overall. I said probably second best match of the night. It was definitely best match of the night when it went on and when it happened. And yeah, just if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It was very, very good. I was worried about the 2 out of 3 falls stipulation with it going maybe a bit long, but they made this work really well. And I think it is, like they said on commentary, it's like traditional Lucha Libre style, is that they go 2 out of 3 falls, which meant that they know exactly what they're doing when it comes to pacing this kind of match. And yeah, just positives completely all around for me. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what both of them go on to do next. Following that, we had Darby Allin defeating Brody King in what was a decent match. I mean, there was nothing really wrong with it. I feel like the only issue is that Darby was clearly winning because they were in Washington. The match wasn't as violent as I expected it was going to be. I feel like this would have maybe been improved by a no disqualification stipulation. But they used what they could within the rules, the steel steps and that kind of stuff, but there was no blood. The only real brutal part of the match was Brody King's suplexes from the top rope, which Darby landed on the side of his head for, which looked awful. But apart from that, and obviously the spot with the stairs where Darby pushed Brody onto the stairs and then did a coffin drop on it. But again, I don't see the coffin drop as a particularly devastating finisher. You're essentially just jumping and landing on somebody, and the seemingly very light weight of Darby Allin really feels like it wouldn't really do much. But then, I haven't taken the move, so maybe it's just me being a bit of a narcissist, maybe saying that it doesn't hurt as much. But I don't know. This match kind of disappointed me in a way. I expected a lot more out of these two, and it was kind of fine. I said Darby Allin was clearly winning because of the hometown thing and how much they made up of Darby Allin never been able to pin Brody King. But it definitely felt like Darby Allin could have had a bigger match on the show if they really wanted to. I felt like, if anything, they could have debuted Bobby Lashley here, if anything else, or they could have just had somebody. They could have had Swerve's return be against Darby Allin or something, because they've got histories together. But yeah, I don't know. I was kind of disappointed with this one, and this was kind of the part of the show where I kind of started finding myself being more distracted than anything else over the next few matches, and kind of like a lower point in the night. But yeah, I said it was a decent match. It was fine for what it was. I just expected more from both of them, and maybe Darby could have had a bigger match. Following that, we had the Young Bucks successfully defend the World Tag Team Championships against Private Party in a match that was okay. It felt very repetitive, especially near the end, where they were kind of just going for big moves, and then kicking out, and then bigger moves, and then kicking out, and then big moves and kicking out. It kind of took away from me for a bit, just because, I don't know, it was a match I didn't have a lot of interest in going in. Private Party, I feel like they're just flavour of the week, and that's why they got the title shot. But it was fine for what it was. I thought this match went on for way longer than it did. I think I looked up after the match how long it went on for, and it was like 15 minutes, but they did this whole thing at the start where it seemed to me like this match wasn't going to happen. Like, they did the whole attack on the outside, and then Matt Jackson seemed to look like legit hurt. So then I thought this match was very quickly going to get thrown one way or the other, and then they kind of went on and on and on and on. So I feel like from bell to bell it was only 15 minutes, but it maybe hit half an hour part if you add all the stuff on the outside of the ring to start with. And yeah, I don't know, it just seemed very mid to me. I wasn't particularly a fan of it. Yeah, I don't know. I felt like it was the right winners. I feel like having the Bucks win was the correct choice just because of kind of what they're doing with the titles, the fact they're barely ever on TV. I feel like Private Party with a bit more build, having Stokely Hathaway as a manager would be great for them in my opinion, but it doesn't seem like they're going to go that way, or at least not for the moment. And yeah, I don't know. Again, it was a match I was very mid with to start with, and it didn't really improve that stance at all going into the match. Like, I wasn't particularly bothered about the tag team match at All In, but then when I watched it, it was actually really good. Whereas this one kind of did exactly what I expected it to do, which was the Bucks would just go on and win. Party would be incredibly frustrated. I thought maybe one of them was going to turn heel or face or something afterwards, but that wasn't the case either. But yeah, I don't know, this one just seemed to really go on and on. It was quite boring at times, very repetitive, as I've said. So yeah, Matt, I said Young Bucks being champions is fine. I feel like the Outrunners are probably going to be the ones that take the titles from them just because of how over they are. But yeah, it was fine for what it was, but it felt like it probably should have gone on way earlier in the show, just if they were going to do all the stuff that they did. After that, we had Mark Briscoe defeat Chris Jericho to retain the Ring of Honor World Championship in what was, again, another decent match. It wasn't the worst match, but it wasn't the best either. It was just fine. I couldn't see Chris Jericho winning this match at all anyway, and then as soon as he kind of did the J-Driller to Mark Briscoe, I kind of knew he was losing. I thought the match placement for this one was really good. It made sense that this would go on before the main event in kind of like a feel-good moment for Mark Briscoe, and yeah, it kind of like have him overcome someone who's been a bit of a dick to him about his brother. You have this big babyface pop for the crowd before the main event happens and everyone goes home really sad. But again, I think the only real surprise and big part of the match for me was the table spot on the outside. I completely forgot the table was even there. So when they did the dive through it and the Jericho like smacked the back of his head on that table, it looked really bad, but I think it was fine overall. That was the only real highlight for the match to me. As I said, it makes sense that Mark Briscoe would win this match. I couldn't see Chris Jericho having another world title reign, especially in Ring of Honor. So yeah, it makes all the more sense to me. And yeah, it was a really nice moment to have just before the main event where everything kind of took a turn for the more depressing side. But yeah, so quality match. Wasn't too bad. But again, maybe could have gone a bit earlier in the show. But I said it was fine for the most part. And finally, in the main event, we had Jon Moxley defeat Bryan Danielson and become the new AEW World Champion in what was a classic match. I thought this was fantastic. This was by far match of the night. I said Hologram and Mortos was a close second, but this was always going to be match of the night in my opinion. This was just technically... It was like technical wrestling at its finest from these two. The targeting of Danielson's neck by Moxley was done perfectly. I liked how Moxley attacked him during the entrance before anyone could even do the final countdown part of the entrance. I thought it was really clever from him. And it kind of set the tone for the match going forward. I thought Moxley... they paced the match really well, which is something that I know AEW do very well and something that was done throughout this pay-per-view really well. But for me, everything fit really well with this one. But kind of the more part that everyone wants to talk about is the finish and the ending. Having Danielson pass out, I thought was the wrong idea. I thought that Danielson should have tapped out instead of passed out. I know that, and ironically, his last match in WWE, he passed out instead of tapped out as well to Roman Reigns. And of course, there's the Shield thing and all that stuff, and that's all very good and well. I mean, it doesn't really mean much, does it? But yeah, no, I thought it was a great way to finish the pay-per-view. I very much enjoyed the part. For me, I'm not a big Danielson guy. I'm not going to lie to you. I prefer Bryan Danielson to Daniel Bryan. I was not a fan of Daniel Bryan in WWE. But to have kind of this different look on Bryan Danielson now, I thought was like he is. It's weird. It's like he is one of the better wrestlers on the card. I definitely have preferred his run in AEW to anything he did in WWE. I know it can be very controversial, but again, I wasn't a big fan of Daniel Bryan. But when it came to the match, I was fully behind Jon Moxley. Moxley's like one of my, if not my definite favourite wrestler in AEW. So I was fully behind him the whole way, and I really like this new gimmick or story they've got going on, where Moxley's kind of wanting to I don't know what the word is. It's kind of like just put AEW back in a place where it was when it first started, when it was the alternative and it was different to WWE, and he's doing that through violence and all that kind of stuff. Is definitely down my alley, and yeah, I just really enjoyed it for the most part. I thought it made sense. I liked that Yuta turned heel but still wasn't fully invested in his heel turn, and yeah, to have... I think the only thing that really took away from the final part for me was that the way they did the chair spot at the end where Claudio stomped on the chair I feel like the chair was actually the wrong way round and it didn't really work the way it should have, but I get the whole point of why they did it. I get why the baby faces all came out, because it was a case of saving the guy's career overall, let alone just his career, like full-time career, all that kind of stuff. Like essentially what we're supposed to believe now is that Danielson is completely fucked and will never wrestle again until he eventually comes back in what will probably be next year or something, when he comes back and shocks Jon Moxley and all that kind of stuff. when he starts doing more part-time wrestling. But yeah, for the most part, I very much enjoyed the match itself. It was very, very good. I enjoyed the part at the end. It made sense to me that Danielson would make Moxley look like a complete and utter worst heel in all of wrestling right now heel. And yeah, everything made sense to me. I said I enjoyed the finishing parts. I know a lot of people didn't, but I definitely did. And yeah, I thought it was just a really positive way to end the show. So yeah, I'm glad that Jon Moxley is AEW World Champion again, even if he kind of takes a different route as a champion, as he put the championship straight in a bag instead of holding it up. So yeah, for me, it was positives all around. I enjoyed everything about this. And yeah, I mean, do put in the comments down below what you thought of the finish and everything like that. And yeah, I say that's kind of I don't know how to end this part. It's kind of just like, it was fine. It was like really good. I really just enjoyed it. So those were my thoughts and opinions on AEW Wrestledream. I do apologise for a bit of a rambling state I went on with at the end of Moxley vs Danielson. But yeah, I thought this was a really good show overall. I thought the more lower parts were near the end of the show with kind of with Brody and Darby, the tag team title match, and Mark Briscoe and Chris Jericho. As I said, I was disappointed that there was only one women's match. I felt like they could have definitely put another one on there. Mercedes Moné is doing a very good job. As much as I hate her, she's doing a good job of defending pretty regularly. And I felt like her versus Emi Sakamura, though it was on Dynamite, she could have maybe set up a match with Chris Statlander quite quickly. But other than that, I feel like that was my only real gripe. I thought the match placement and everything was really good. I was worried that I was worried that Ospreay and Takeshita and Ricochet were going to get kind of that, I don't want to say like third place, but they kind of got put in the middle, which I thought was really good. And then yeah, the ending I thought was great. I thought it was a really good way for Danielson to go out. As much as people probably don't like it, I was very much for it. I felt like the Swerve segment wasn't really needed here. There probably could have been a match in that place rather than have him have a segment, and that segment could have been done on Dynamite. But other than that, I thought the show was decent for the most part. It's not the best AEW show we've had all year, but it was fine for what it was. But yeah, do put down in the comments what you thought of the show overall, what you thought of the finishing parts of Danielson and Moxley match, and anything else you thought about on the show, or any feedback for me would be much appreciated. And yeah, do go over to Patreon. I'm on there now as well. I'm doing more watch-alongs of wrestling matches. There's I think there's already 3 matches on there, and there's more to come over the rest of the week. And yeah, there'll be more coming more and more often. I'm kind of recording them in bulk and then uploading them ahead of schedule, so then like there's loads on there whenever you want to go over there and watch them. And yeah, I also do articles for the weekly shows for Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite and Collision over on the Wrestling For You webpage. And yeah, that's it for me. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, do subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next video, which I think the next video on the channel will be with the Continental Classic coming up I think it starts like next month, hopefully. I've done a Continental Classic tournament I'd like to see video. I'm not in it personally. It's one of the videos that you just see your stuff on the screen and there's music playing. But hopefully you all enjoy that, and you'll be able to see who I think should be in the Continental Classic, and you can kind of put down in the comments below there who you think should be in it. But yeah, that's everything from me. Thank you very much for watching again, and I'll see you later.